is figuring out if people followed the letter of the law. One of the things Mark just pointed out was this idea of them drinking 2 beers. The night the scandal was released, the first thing they said was the officers may have been drunk. Now suddenly we're saying, well, maybe they had 2 beers. First, even if we took a breathalyzer, which they didn't do at the scene, that doesn't necessarily mean that he only had 2. He could have 4 and had burned off 2 of them. Now you may say, well, then he wasn't drunk, but you don't. If you have 4 in you, you may have initiated a circumstance and started some trouble that had escalated to the point that by the time you were sober, you see what I'm saying? It was out of your control. So that type of thing, figuring out what actually happened, piecing together what actually happened. There were arguments that there was a fourth person in the car. Suddenly, that person disappears. There's all these claims that were made by the police to help defend what they were doing, to make it seem as if they were in imminent danger and they had to respond the way they did. We know they didn't, but the panel needs, or any type of investigation needs to piece together what happened to see if they acted accordingly. And I don't think that can happen unless there are outside people on that panel.
Well, we certainly know that the 2-beer defense doesn't work when you get pulled over for speeding, okay?
That's right. And the question is, how can you enforce the laws if you break the law? Because, for example, if the commissioners indicate, as he had, that they are allowed 2 drinks, does that mean 2 drinks per location? Because you have to realize these officers may do 6 or 7 different clubs in a night.
Right.
Is that 2 drinks per location? No one's asking that question of him, so you don't know. And what's the policy? What are you doing different about the policy? So tonight, there's not another Sean Bell. What is he doing different? Nothing, because no one's demanding that. They're having meetings,
well, sure,
but they're not having anything substantive, no substantive discussion about can we stop this from happening tonight when my son goes out.
Right, right. And I think it should be pointed out for people who aren't in the New York City area that since the Sean Bell shooting, which has made national news, there have been at least 2 other shootings that have made local news in this area, calling into question if whether or not there is an overreaction, okay, to these incidents. All of this comes at the same time that a local newspaper has written an article analyzing the number of cases that take place in the New York area that lead to shootings and comparing that to the actual crime rate. Okay, we just heard it 6 months ago, the police commissioner talk about crime being at its lowest point in years, and these are the things that are talked about just prior to an election in order to make us feel good about the politicians so that we can re-elect them. The question that I have is, if crime is going down as is being alleged by these same individuals, the police commissioner and the mayor, then why are we seeing the escalating violent reaction by the police department? Okay, justified or unjustified?
What it is the irrelevance of statistics when you're dealing with tragedies. I believe, as Mark Twain said, that statistics should be used like a drunk uses a lamppost, for support, not for illumination.
Right.
And what happens oftentimes is we have, in the midst of our most horrific incidents, we have the administration giving us statistical justifications. For me, it should be thrown back at them and say, don't give me your numbers, because numbers can be manipulated and they are meaningless. Those numbers were meaningless to Amadou Diallo's family,
right,
to Usman Zongo's family, to Alberta Spruill's family,
right,
to Timothy Stansbury's family,
right,
to Patrick Dorisman's family. And every time we have these type of instances, they come with their statistics. Let me just tell you, we've discussed it on this show before. Only a fool would believe police department statistics, first off. And I'm telling you, as a retired detective in the New York City Police Department, that there's no way in the world that you should have confidence in statistics supplied by the New York City Police Department, because they are actively manipulating the statistics. They are changing crime classifications and categories to suit their needs. And so the short answer is, there is no statistical justification, or this is not the time to even have a discussion about statistics, because they're totally irrelevant, because what you have is communities that are under siege, that are being disrespected as we speak, and families that are in pain. Those are the important things, and the numbers can't push that away.
All right, but what about the what about in other communities, Mark? I know through your blog, okay, you're hearing from people all over the country who are having experiences that are at least similar to the experiences we're talking about here in New York.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that the fundamental problem still is that black people are in a worldwide, not just a national, not just a local, but a global struggle to defend their humanity. to prove their humanity. And because people don't see black people as full human beings, it's easy to shoot them like animals on the street. And so even if, and I agree with Mark, I don't believe anything about those statistics, but even if the statistics were right, that doesn't diminish the fact that there are black men every day and black women every day who are going to be abused and flat out terrorized by the police. And I think that that's the sentiment that I'm getting from people all around the country and all around the world even, is that in every hood, in every neighborhood, in every ghetto, in every suburb, everywhere you go, people are still feeling terrorized by the police and by law enforcement more broadly, and that's a tragedy.
Yeah, and there's a fair to talk about the race issue. I mean, every time an issue comes up where it legitimately, being from a community that's being oppressed by the situation, it legitimately is brought up. You hear Curtis Sliwa and all these other, oh, it's not a race issue, and and there could be, how can you say that? And you can't say that because you can't have the same perspective as the people who are going through it. So if we say that they need to address issues regarding policing within our communities, if you don't want to address the situation, it's the same situation that we've gone through for years and years over racial issues. We have to do whatever's necessary, whether it's the marching or the civil rights movement type issues. We got to do whatever's necessary in order to keep pushing it in people's face, even though it shouldn't even be necessary.